Okay, everybody, hello, hello. And people are coming into for the session here now. We need to just start, I think. We have a tight schedule, but welcome to this session about the future of health. And my name is Toril Nagelhus Hernes, and I'm Vice President of Innovation at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and I'm also a professor in medical technology. So this session is really something that I'm looking forward to. Today we heard the Prime Minister saying, "I do not fear new technology, but old technology." And technology will be important for innovation in healthcare in the future. So therefore, I'm really looking forward to the session today. And now, first, I'm delighted to welcome on stage Tarje Bjørgum, Head of Sustainability and Future Health at Adde, and he will challenge us on how Norway can unlock its true health innovation potential. Please, Tarje.
Health is something that relates to us all. Good, bad, or otherwise, we experience a level of health regardless of our situation. Our bodies are wonderfully complex systems, each catering to the unique needs of each of us. This body is made up of 100,000 billion cells. My heart beats 100,000 times a day. All parts of the human ecosystem are perfectly connected. Each part has its own function and role, and the different parts interact with each other. The healthcare sector is Norway's largest sector. It is also a quite expensive system. We spend close to 80,000 kroner per inhabitant. Over the next decade, the cost per capita will increase as demographics and disease pictures change. We can expect that mental and neurooriented diseases, alongside an increase in chronic disorders and lifestyle diseases, will dominate. Battling this demographic change will not be fought by nurses overworking or staff overworking, running around, but instead, we must solve things differently and make use of technology where possible. Therefore, a need for redesign of how we deliver, practice, and think about health service is now top of the agenda. Health tech provides crucial support to medical personnel to allow them to devote their time to treatment and care. However, as it stands, doctors can spend up to 40% of their time reporting. At the same time, medical revolutions are driven by technology. The transition to personalized medicine is changing the way we treat people. We can send a small nano-sized device through the body to treat a completely unique organism exactly where it is needed, instead of radiating down the entire body and giving people possible injuries. It's a bit science fiction, but this is happening. However, this relates to more than just meeting the pressure on the health service. It is also about thinking ahead about how health and ill health are really managed. Imagine if we could design a health service that promotes health, not just the treatment of ill health. What if we could reduce the burden of disease in society and give people the opportunity to take control of and maybe also reverse their own diseases? Tech and innovation are at the forefront of answering these questions. Health tech is Norway's most startup-intensive industry. All over the country, researchers, founders, and scale-ups develop health tech solutions important to people and organizations. At the same time, most tech companies meet the wall in a closed health service. It seems to be a somewhat shut-off system. There is simply no adequate audience for new solutions within the health sector. Furthermore, we continue to power old ways of working. Digitization projects underestimate the importance of change and new ways of working. Technology is one thing. Changing routines in the way we work is something else. We continue to adopt a top-down approach when we should work bottom-up. When it comes to IT infrastructure, Soviet 10-year plans and centrally controlled innovation are still the most common. Even though we all know it does not work and something else is needed. Therefore, the problems keep growing. If we continue like this, we will not achieve innovation in health at the pace that we need to, or achieve better working days for health professionals, or even discover new export opportunities. Luckily, we know what to do. As a representative of Abelia, the Association of Tech and Knowledge-Based Companies, we simply cannot wait to contribute and co-create in making this change happen. First, we must set the direction for innovation, for where we want to see change. Then, the instruments must be adapted to the direction. We need to build innovation-promoting mechanisms into the very machinery of the health service, through the way we finance, how we manage, and how we lead. We must look at everything from GP's fees to rewarding new ways of working among health professionals. It must pay to work smart, and it must hurt to work in stupid ways. By 2030, hospitals aim to carry out 30% of patients' treatment at home. But it does not help to stimulate digital home follow-up in municipalities when hospitals continue to get paid for each day a patient stays overnight at the hospital. When we are to reverse the flow of patients and treatment, we must also think radically differently. And we must connect to arenas outside the health service itself. It is not in the healthcare system that health is produced. It is produced where people live their lives, in the family, in the kindergarten, school, and workplace. We must also change the way we have approached the field of technology. We need to move away from state-of-the-art mammoth solutions and over to agile development and sharing of data. This is both cheaper, faster, and less risky. But in a sector with built-in risk aversion, it is important to create real room for development. Continuous testing of new solutions will be crucial. Healthcare professionals need to co-create with developers to get the best possible effect. For healthcare professionals, the key will be securing their involvement. Crucially though, we do not have a national infrastructure for testing and experimenting in Norway, where we can test and experiment all the exciting technology into operational solutions. Really? We are talking about the largest sector in Norway, and the one with the greatest need of innovation. In all other large sectors, oil, fish, the defense, of course this is already in place. The national health clusters, the incubators, and the rest of the innovation ecosystem are more than ready to take on more active roles. SIVA here in Trondheim is committed to build a national infrastructure for testing and experimenting, if only the funding was available. And then, an important note. When we, in the coming years, are to develop more than 250,000 new sustainable jobs outside of oil, which is what we need to do if we are to maintain our prosperity, The ecosystem in health tech and life sciences will be central also to these new industries we are to create. This applies, among other things, to all bio-based development in the ocean space. It applies when we renew the way we produce food on land and in industry, in addition to the health sector. Finally, building and developing the innovation ecosystem for health. For health tech and life science is therefore one of the most important things we as a nation can do. It applies to you, it applies to me, it applies to our economy and to all of us. And as with the human ecosystem within the body, the innovation ecosystem must be consistent, where all the necessary parts working alongside and interact with each other with clear functions and roles. We can make it. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarje. And we heard, just to stay a little bit on the stage, because we heard you a lot, speaking a lot about the industry, the health services, but I'm also very curious on the research environment. What do you expect from the university and the research institute in order to really get a lot of things happening in the ecosystem and really get more innovation in healthcare? What do you expect from us?
Well, when I talk about innovation ecosystem, I include the research system within there. But we need to find new different. As a health research is the area that we invest most in Norway. It's of more than 10 million every year. But we need to make more out of that. We need to get the different sectors together, and we have to do this more holistically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I believe that all of you has taken at least one COVID-19 test, maybe a lot of them as well. And the next speaker of this session is Sulalit Bandyopadhyay. He is the co-founder and CTO of Lib Scientific. And Lib Scientific develops cost-effective sample preparation covering a large range of nucleic acid-based diagnostic applications. Not only the COVID-19 test, it can be used for many different purposes as well. So, this has undoubtedly supporting the pandemic and probably also a lot of similar or more similar pandemic in the future. So I'm so happy, Sulalit, that you are with us today. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. And welcome to listen to our journey of Trondheim's biotech, Lib Scientific. The journey can be traced back to March 2020. Many of you would remember that on 12th of March, Norway went into a national lockdown. Within just over a week, St. Olav's Hospital in Trondheim already felt a shortage of test kits. An SOS alert was sent out to NTNU to see if someone had test kits that could be used for diagnosis of corona. One of the first groups to respond was the Department of Clinical and Molecular Medicine, Professor Magna Bjørgum and his group, who started, based on their expertise, using silica beads to see if this would help solve the problem. They soon realized that if this was going to be a high-throughput testing, silica beads would not work. There was a need for getting in magnetic beads. The Department of Chemical Engineering, where I am also employed now, got this message, and we joined into the adventure. The first few days we started making some of the beads based on our project experience from before. And we sent these to ICOM, who with their lysis buffer started testing on live patient samples if this would work. You can believe me that those were hectic days in the lab. But the results were extraordinary. Just over the weekend, we got to know that our beads combined with the buffer worked extremely well and even outperformed competing products in the market. Now, this was the time when there was a pandemic, and it required immense support to set up this production. So, as soon as the news became viral, and a contact was established with the Norwegian health authorities to ask for exemption for this test method. And this small town in Norway, with a hugely interdisciplinary collaboration between two research groups, was already having the capacity of producing more than 150,000 test kits a day. So this was, of course, a huge innovation which then needed to be filed for patenting to avoid unethical use of this technology. What followed the next weeks and the months to come was that we established a factory within the university. There were production lines, quality control lines, and a whole project management team working day in, day out to produce test kits for society. We produced up to 20 million test kits over the rest of the year. And if you're sitting and wondering where these test kits have been used, as Toril mentioned, many of you in the audience might have got tested using our test kits. Over 5.1 million test kits were reserved and earmarked for the Norwegian Health Authority. And during this period, we were contacted by over 220 different organizations all around the world trying to use our test method. We were successful enough to send out these test kits to Brazil, India, and a large number of other countries. But as you know, that the university is meant to do research, teach students, and perform in innovation activities, but not necessarily set up a factory. So a need was felt to establish a startup. Life Scientific was born in the first quarter of 2021. After a short period of organization of the team, we were back in business. We acquired soft funding and also research funding from the Research Council of Norway to not only expand our market base, but at the same time work towards developing new products beyond the pandemic era. And we also established the CE-IVD marking of our first product, Nagstra, for corona diagnosis. This was a huge step and helped us expand our market further, not only in Norway, but also outside Norway. So currently, we are working on two paths. We are expanding our market base for diagnostic products, mostly in the sample preparation, but at the same time, we are developing new R&D products that would be soon launched. In the summer of this year, we are already harmonizing our quality management systems towards the new IVDR guidelines and also working towards the launch of a new product, which is not Nagstra. So what does our technology platform look like? Well, many of you might have had this irritation of taking a swab. So the patient sample is collected through the nose and the throat, and then this is dipped in a solution called the lysis buffer, which opens up the virus and exposes the genetic material. We then add in our nanobeads, to which the genetic material favorably binds. And as these are magnetic, with the help of a magnet, we can then separate the genetic material from the rest of the sample. Then we elute the genetic material and diagnose this genetic material to find out what virus or what pathogen this is. So our first product in this line is Nagstra, and which components of two components, the lysis buffer and the beads, and hence the name of the company, Life Scientific. Now this is, although the product is tailor-made for coronavirus diagnosis, but it can be used for other viruses and also other pathogens with little modifications. what is advantageous and what is the innovative nature of our technology is the upscaled production where we have all contributed. And this makes it also faster and cheaper in the sense it is well suited to automatic platforms for analysis. But this is just our first product. We are looking into developing products for respiratory diseases, for sexually transmitted diseases, and are working our way through next-generation sequencing and personalized medicine. All this is possible because there is a strong team in LIPE, but at the same time, a very good collaboration with NTNU, which we see as an R&D powerhouse. Our market is also to sell beads to diagnostic labs, as well as for research, but at the same time, working with industrial partners to engage and enter into new markets. We have a proficient team, which is led by our CEO, Tarje, and also Magna Burus is a principal scientist, myself as CTO, and Morten Wikstål as the chairman of the board, and several other people in LIPE. So that was our journey, LIPE Scientific, Trondheim's biotech company. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sulalit. And I think that this is really amazing that you made what you actually did in a very, very short time, and also based on the demands and the challenging situation that we were actually all in. So since we are here today, trying to make the ecosystem for innovation and research-based innovation even better, do you have some advice for us as a university? Could we do anything better for you to make more innovation, other kinds of innovation, and so on?
Absolutely. I think one reason why all these teams came together and it was everything was happening fast was that there was a real need in terms of the pandemic. So this was a pandemic-driven innovation, as we see, but many universities in Norway, especially NTNU, has a good infrastructure for encouraging such interdisciplinary collaboration. So I think interdisciplinary collaboration is one important thing, but also more research funding towards innovation activities locally can also help spurge up such innovations in the future.
I'm happy to hear that, and I also know that if it hadn't been for the long-term, basic research that you all in both research groups had been performing, that was actually a kind of platform for making it possible. So congratulations, I'm so amazed. Thank you, Sulalit. Our next speaker and guest is Professor Ulrik Wisløff, the head of SARIG, head of Cardiac Exercise Research Group at NTNU. And Ulrik is also the inventor of personalized activity and intelligence that he will tell us a little bit more about. And along that, Ulrik has a lot of other activities as well, but he also received the Heart Research Award from the Norwegian Health Association. So please, Ulrik, let us hear more of all your activities.
Thank you, Toril, and thank you for inviting me to this exciting congress. I will talk briefly about the project we are running right now that is called My Medical Digital Twin. The concept of a digital twin is not new, and NASA has, at least for a decade, been using a digital twin to run computer simulations on a digital spacecraft on the ground to detect and fix problems in real time to prevent future problems on the spacecraft in space. My MDT, or My Medical Digital Twin, is simply put a reflection of a person's health, collected through numerous sensors on the human's body. We do believe in making personal profiles consisting of several physiological measures, And we also believe that that is much better than the 10-minute recording we get, or that I get when I go to my doctor to test something, blood pressure or heart rate or something like that, when serious symptoms might not be present. Even though we know that the recordings at the doctor's office is more accurate. We believe that a deviation from my profile can be used to predict and hopefully used to avoid future serious events such as a new myocardial infarction or a stroke. Yeah. And I think that, or we have this idea that if something happens and there's a deviation from my profile, I get an alarm on my smartwatch or my app or cell phone, or even better, an alarm goes directly to healthcare personnel. Yeah. So with the rapid aging and physically inactive population worldwide, there are no society that can handle the economic cost of the foreseen increase in lifestyle-related diseases. Therefore, we need to develop tools that enable people to better take care of their own health. And that is what my medical digital twin is trying to solve. So we start out with, when we build this model, we started out with a mechanistic model of the human body. We feed that with population data from the hunt studies that we are fortunate to have access to at NTNU. And of course, we put in individual data into the equation, and we run statistical framework, and we get this reflection of the human body. And the digital twin is, if you look up to the right, my digital twin is supposed to guide treatment and prevention strategies in the future. And importantly, we also monitor adherence to treatment. And as most of you know, physical activity is the first-line treatment for most, if not all, lifestyle-related diseases. For instance, here you see that physical activity reduce diastolic and systolic blood pressure to the same extent as when using standard blood pressure medications. And we know that exercise is good for all of us, but we have not been able to say how much exercise do you need to undertake in order to be on the safe side. So that we have been working on for about 10 years, and we have developed this new metric for tracking physical activity called personal activity intelligence, and it's based upon heart rate and sex, sex and age, maximal and resting heart rate. And we have been able to define that if you do physical activity that gives you, so that you earn 100 pi points per week, that will reduce the risk of lifestyle-related diseases and premature death quite a lot. And if you look at the example with hypertension, as we have used in our medical twin, we see that people with high blood pressure that achieve 100 weekly pi points reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease and dying from it by approximately 30%, which is a lot. We also see the same in other conditions with overweight, type 2 diabetes, and even in dementia, which is a huge problem in the future. We think that our ambition is to improve the world's health, nothing less than that. And we think that we will be able to redesign cardiovascular medicine, or will contribute to that. We will improve health and quality of life worldwide, and we will contribute, our solution will contribute to creating a sustainable healthcare system of the future. And at present, we have developed a few sensors that doesn't exist anywhere else. And we also use commercial sensors that we put into our system. And we have an app that is working, but it doesn't look very sexy, so I didn't want to show you that now. And of course, I'm not working on this alone, so I think this is bridging the gap because we have we have 6 different professors from 4 different faculties with extremely different expertise, ranging from machine learning, AI, exercise physiology, statistics, genetics, prototype building, physiological modeling, and we have extremely good PhDs and postdocs working on this project. And finally, we have really good collaborators worldwide that share the same interest as us. So hopefully our digital twin will be done by the end of this year or early next year. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Ulrik. And I think that we also heard here earlier today from Abelia about how we should rethink the way of making health services and so on. And if you have this digital twin, it's easier to be your own doctor in a way. And that is perhaps one of the main ideas, that you really can use the data and everything to really both monitoring but also act when you get the sensors and everything.
Yeah, that's completely right. And I think it's important to say that we know that some of our sensors are not as accurate as measuring blood pressure in hospital or something like that, but it's probably accurate enough to make a profile that fits for me and for you and for my mother and so on. So, and deviation from that is really something.
Yeah, but you also made this, we are bridging the gap, and as you said, you have bridged the gap across scientifically different fields, but you also have a lot of different universities from abroad, outside Norway and so on. Could you say what has been the most challenging?
The most challenging is to have all these people to work together, because we are, or the beauty of it is also that, because we have 6 PhD students and none of them get a PhD if they can't collaborate with the 5 others. So that's quite cool, but it's also challenging. And But from collaborators abroad, they have just been positive and think that we are on the right track. And of course, we are not there yet, but we really think that we have something going on.
Thank you, Ulrik. Just be seated. You'll have a little bit of, well, what should I say? Påfyll. It's amazing what sound and a new visualization of nature can be very relaxing, actually. It's nice. Okay, our next guests are Lars, Adde, and Siril Osland. Lars, I know Lars for many years, and he is a researcher working on in-motion concept at NTNU and St. Olav's Hospital, and we'll hear more about that. And Siril, she is a pediatric physical therapist at St. Olav's Hospital, and I think this is very interesting how NTNU and St. Olav together can make new knowledge that can also help better services for healthcare. Please, Lars and Siril.
So, thank you very much for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, Siril. Thank you for being here together with me today, presenting the in-motion concept.
Good afternoon, Lars. Thank you for giving me the possibility of telling about the important clinical impact of the in-motion concept.
So, should we just start telling the story about in-motion?
Yes, let's do so. After birth, newborn babies usually go home with their parents. However, some newborns require intensive medical care due to premature birth, respiratory problems, infections, or lack of oxygen during delivery. These children are referred to follow-up programs after discharge from hospital because some of them will experience developmental delays and some will develop cerebral palsy, or CP.
So, some will develop CP. CP is a disorder of the development of muscle control and posture and occurs because of an injury to the developing brain. CP causes activity limitation and co-occurring impairments and functional limitations like pain, epilepsy, intellectual disability, musculoskeletal deformities, sleep disorders, vision and hearing impairments are common. A diagnosis of CP is often not established until 1 to 2 years of age.
However, early diagnosis is essential so that early treatment can be to improve activity and prevent other impairments like, for example, pain, can be started while the infant's brain has optimal ability to change.
So, is there any way to identify cerebral palsy during the first months of life?
Yes, it is. Infant spontaneous movements can be video recorded at hospital or by parents at home between 3 to 5 months of age and can be uploaded for analysis at the hospital. There, trained observers look at video recordings of spontaneous movements in these infants and, based on what they see, classify the infants as high or low risk of CP. We have conducted several clinical studies where we found that this is an excellent method to identify children with CP early in infancy.
So, the trained clinical experts are quite smart in early diagnosis.
Yes, they are. However, this observation method requires a lot of training, is challenging to maintain over time in small local teams, and is not at all available for everyone globally.
So, therefore, our InMotion research team, consisting of child physiotherapists, pediatricians, neonatologists, movement scientists, and computer engineers, have developed a method to assess infant spontaneous movements from videos and predict CP automatically using machine learning techniques. And training of machine learning models requires large amounts of data. Luckily, the InMotion research team have collected video data together with international partners in clinical studies during the last 18 years. So this gold mine of data has then been used developing the machine learning model.
So, to offer examinations to everyone who needs it, the InMotion research team have used artificial intelligence to automatically analyze video images of infants' movements to assess the risk of developing CP. And if I have understood this correctly, the computer program does the same as the experts. It analyzes the patterns of movement in the infant and compares this to the normal and abnormal patterns in its own databank.
That is correct. And in contrast to an expert, the program can look at a lot more babies, remember every one of them, and can support health workers who don't have special training or expertise. In fact, in our clinical studies, we have found that computers can be trained to do the same level of, same type of examination with the same level of accuracy as the medical experts in assessing movement patterns.
So, the experience so far is also that follow-up at home can give better quality of examination, can increase parental involvement in the assessment of their own child, often reduce travel costs, and reduce the number of consultations at the hospital. So, what happens now?
Well, we will continue to develop new knowledge about movement patterns in infants at risk of brain injury and their association with later neurodevelopmental diseases. We will also improve our machine learning methods to be more accurate and supportive for health workers in their assessment. And finally, we need to come in contact with the industry for possible commercial activity, implementing the InMotion tool in clinical practice and make it available globally. So, if there are any investors, startups, or industries that like our concept, please contact. We are outside in the expo area.
Well, we need to get to work.
Yes, we do. So, thank you very much for your attention.
So, thank you, Lars and Siri. And I've been following this research for some time, and I think that, it's developing all the time. And I know that very many parents around, if they see this, they would say, "Oh, could I use it already on my small, baby, newborn baby, and so on?" So, but is it possible, or do you need to commercialize it first, or do you have some open access, or what is the plan? You told a little bit, yes, but please.
For the time being, it's possible for us to do the clinical observation and assessment for these infants here in Trondheim. And we are still validating and testing the algorithms that they are doing what they are supposed to do. Then we are also working hard to try to see if it's possible to get this out in the world. And that is a challenge, but it's also very interesting, very fascinating. But we think this concept has great potential.
So, as I said also, I've been following your research for some time, and if you look back, would you have done something differently? Perhaps for you, Lars?
Yeah. Well, working as a physical therapist at St. Olav's Hospital and then as a researcher at NTNU, we have always been interested in doing the innovation and thinking about solutions to improve patient care. To be quite honest, there is a lot of people in the system that applaud what you're trying to do, you know, and cheer you up, go on, go on. But I think there are also challenges in connection with the fact that there are very many doors into the system of innovation at the hospital and at the university. So as a clinician, I think it would be a good idea to have, you know, one door, and then maybe also some kind of mentor system that could pick you up early and guide you a little bit on the road. Because I think it's a lot of people like us and me that have tried a lot and learned a lot, but that should also be, sorted out to more people.
Make the system easier for you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
We are all a part of a larger system, and when it comes to ecosystem for innovation, it is important to collaborate. Collaborate regionally, nationally, internationally. And therefore, I'm very, very happy to have our next speaker here. It's Annika Portela. She's a managing director for EIT Health in Scandinavia. And EIT, it's a part of the Pillar 3 of the European system, and it's about the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And I think that we here in Norway can collaborate across borders, across disciplines, and have very good connections to our neighbors and to Europe is important for successful health innovation. So please, Annika, we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. So what we have heard here today are interesting testimonials that Europe faces a turning point in health. The pandemic led to immense challenges across all sectors, but especially in healthcare. An aging population, the rising burden of chronic disease, and a growing multimorbidity are all placing pressure on health systems across Europe. And we need to address those challenges together. Backed by the European Union, EIT Health is the largest organized network for collaboration within life science and health in the world. Spanning across 17 countries, EIT Health is a vibrant community of over 150 partners within industry, healthcare, research institutions, incubators, universities, and public sector organizations, bringing research and innovation together. We are honored and proud that Norway now is included in the EIT Health Network, as NTNU, in collaboration with Norway HealthTech, joined at the beginning of this year. So our ambition is to enable people in Europe to live longer, healthier lives. Our work goes beyond conventional approaches to disease management and prevention, and we connect the needs of patients and citizens with our vast network to deliver innovative solutions that break down barriers. Since we launched in 2016, we have already supported more than 1,000 startups across Europe who have raised more than 250 million in investment. So, can EIT Health be the platform for you, where life-changing ideas for the future of health can become a reality? Come and listen to what we have to offer, maybe to bridge the gap between Norway and Europe. So you can meet us at the NTNU Health and Norway Health Tech side event in a little bit. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Annika. And as Annika said, there will be a side event now, just next door, where we have this kickoff for EIT Health. And this network is, of course, open for all of you, although it's Norway Health Tech and NTNU that is the partner here. We will have make different kinds of arenas and workshops and so on that will be possible to join. So it's both for businesses, academia, research institutes, and so on, investors and so on. So please, you are welcome over there if you want to have more information. But there will also be a very interesting topic now on this main stage about futuristic oceans, which is very, very interesting. But we have a small break now, don't we have that? I think so. So it's possible for you to grab some coffee, stretch your legs, and we will start here again at 15:30. Isn't it that right? Yes. So thank you for joining this session.